So I've been known to not celebrate anything. I'm a curmudgeon that way. Hello, Rick Swink. Good morning. My colleagues love to point this out to me all the time, including my two co-hosts here, Kristen and Dame. Hello, Kristen.
Hello, Pete.
Hello, Dame. Father of state champion swimmer.
Yeah, a relay team, freestyle relay team. Set the team record for the all-time team record, but yeah, brought home some hardware.
Jeez, guys, I tend to just do and go, and it's not healthy, right? If I had a therapist, I think at some point in time, all of that would come out as to why that is happening. Reverend Renfro says, "Congratulations, Dame, and good morning to you." So yesterday, I'm going to celebrate something I did publicly. Wait, I did it privately, but I'm celebrating it publicly. That's right? We're tracking?
I think so.
Did it privately sounds awful.
Yeah.
Okay. I submitted the book manuscript yesterday.
Hey.
Number 12 or 13. Don't know. Not a numbers guy. It's done. Took longer than I wanted, of course, but it's in the hands of the editor, and we should have them in our hands hopefully in May or so.
That's so exciting.
It was exciting. The book took a turn. I don't know. Let's tell you this. I'm writing it, and I had this perspective. I'm writing it, and then I was like, wait a second. I want to talk about this. And then it took a real wild turn, and then there we are. There we are. So it's called It's Not Your Fault, but It Is Your Problem. It's for HR people and people leaders to understand that the things going on in their employees' financial lives and lives in general, like caring for aging parents and dealing with childcare and dealing with health problems, well, it's not the fault of the employer. You certainly got to account for it because it impacts your organization. So very excited about that.
Man, with that title, there could be some amazing cover art.
Oh, there is amazing cover. Do you want to see the cover art?
Are we allowed to?
I think so. I mean, I'm sort of in charge. Let's see if I can pull this off here. Do people want to put your hands? We'll get a train clap for the cover art?
No.
Probably
Okay,
not.
let's see. Candace sent me. So my designer, Lindsay, who's designed all my other book covers, is back in the fold for this one.
Nice.
Candace sent me. I don't know if I'm allowed to show this, but we're going to. So,
All right, Candace.
okay, here we go. Always breaking the rules. Rebel without a pause. Now I understand the pause part. Okay, ready? It's not your fault, but it is your problem. It's kind of like McDonald's supersized me feel to it a little bit, the page. This is a draft page. Like, I'm literally going to get yelled at for doing this. Now, I should take this off the screen. But anyway, that is the cover. It's not your fault, but it is your problem.
That's exciting. I did not think McDonald's supersized me until you said it, but I see it now.
See, I thought when I see It's Not Your Fault in such big text, I thought Robin Williams and Good Will Hunting.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't even considered that. So we were trying to think of some swag for like the launch of this thing. And I like the idea of like a sweatshirt that on the front it says, not my fault. And on the back it says, still my problem, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Anyway, Kristen, goat property yet? Donkey, you have donkey land yet?
It's only been a week. I don't have it yet.
Mm-hmm. I want you to know that I fixed the camera from last week, Kristen, so that I don't look like I'm in anime.
Yes.
And the colors just keep changing. I've locked it in. I figured that out. And so you will not have any issues there.
Yeah, thank goodness. Last week was interesting.
Dave, did you listen to the show last week? Not a test.
Of course not.
Okay, good. I have to say, Kristen's Midwest buzzer thing was really funny to me.
Buzzer?
It might be worth checking out, Dame. I was complimenting Kristen on her home purchase, was talking about her property, and every time that she would give a Midwestern, well, it's not that, I'd hit a. And then so like the entire segment.
The whole convo.
It's really funny.
Okay. All right. Just one segment though? I don't have to listen to the whole thing?
You do not have to listen.
It's just like the first 5 minutes of the show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Friend of the show, Danny Dunn, world-renowned comedian. Talked to him on the phone last night. Shooting a comedy special tonight,
Oh, that's so
Columbus, Ohio.
Nice.
Like a real thing. It's Don't Tell Comedy. Like Don't Tell Comedy is like a brand, like Netflix is a joke, you know, like within that. Yeah. So lots of great things happening on it, and he might be going on like a legit it's not a stadium tour. That's a theater
tour?
tour. Not like a comedy club, but like a theater venue tour.
That's so
Kind of wild.
So are you going to Columbus tonight?
No, I'm not a good family member.
Okay.
I thought about it though when he told me, but I was like, you gotta have some cheese. So anyway, starting at hello, gent. What?
It's game day in Indianapolis.
What does it even mean?
March Madness?
Who cares? I'm an old man. I'm not going to cheer for teens. Oh, go! What am I? I'm a grown man. Oh, I hope so and so hits his jumpers. I don't care.
That's devastating, truly.
It's honest. I used to care. I used to be like, oh, I hope this sophomore gets out of his shooting slump. I don't give a rip. I don't really care. I hope he gets his education, and I hope he contributes to society. That's it. That's the old man in me.
If he's in a shooting slump, he probably better get an education.
Oh man, Dame, do you? I mean, you're old. You're Jiminy Christmas. You gotta. Do you feel that way at all?
Oh yeah, I mean, if there was a graph of the hours spent watching the NCAA tournament over the course of my life, I mean, we're quickly approaching the x-axis.
Rick Swing says race weekend around this park. What kind of race are we talking here? Are we talking a NASCAR race? I feel like that's the direction he's going. Isn't he in the Carolinas?
Believe
Rick?
so.
I don't know.
It's the middle of nowhere, but I don't know in which state of the middle of nowhere.
NASCAR. Okay.
There.
You know what? Let's see what I can do here. One of our clients is Hendrick Motorsports. And so they sent me, because I went and spoke there, this Hendrick Motorsports 40-year coffee table book.
Nice.
Look
That
at,
looks so good in my new house.
you know what, Kristen? I may gift this to you, not as a re-gift, but it's just like, it's so cool. It's so cool.
The image on the cover, that cover that they did with all the different cuts and liveries, reminds me of the BMW art car that they did with the M1. Not that I have any expectation that you know what I'm talking about.
Any idea what
But
you're talking about?
It's really cool.
So we ended up getting a third car for our household for our teen driver, and Dame was giving me instructions before the show.
Just cautionary. Just hey.
No, I appreciate it. I'm not.
Keep an eye on this.
No, dude. Thank you. That's what you're here for.
With the air in the tires.
That's not what I said. but
washer
That's important too.
We were talking about the cost of fuel at our house with our teen driver, and I said, "What? Yes."
Why? Oh, I have a question. Do you guys know how much gas costs?
What?
What?
My sister and I had this debate yesterday. Please tell your story.
No.
This thing press.
No. This is much more important. Say what now, Chris?
My sister was complaining about how expensive gas was the other day, and I said, I couldn't tell you a range of how much unleaded gas is right now. I have no idea.
Could have been $1.50. Could have been $5.
Correct.
There's no better feeling than when you seem out of touch. Like, I love it.
I just don't drive. And when I do have to get gas, I've usually put myself in a position where I have to just fill up now. And what I have to put the fuel in the vehicle, like, it doesn't really matter what it costs. I have no idea.
That's why today's show is about how to live on $100,000 a year for the average American. We'll get to that in a second anyway. So we're talking about gas prices, and of course, teen drivers complaining about that. And I said, wait until you find out the cost of putting air in your tires. Like, you're gonna freak out. She's like, is it more than gas? I was like, substantially more than gas, and you got to do it a lot more frequently.
Well, don't tell her about the premium air.
No, premium air. It's they harvest it from Carmel. Pump it into
Her Uncle Damien probably needs to, like,
Do
Give her
you
a
tell her if you
lesson,
put if she puts helium in the tire, she gets better gas mileage because it makes everything lighter?
There you go.
Guys.
Okay.
So, for those that listen to the story time with Pete's, just a disclaimer I'm going to throw out there. I told my friends here before the show, just trying some stuff out. Hope you like it. Give me feedback, good or bad. Feel free. Seriously, email me. Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. Ask Pete or put it in the live chat here. Are you enjoying listening to them? I'm having some fun with them. They don't take that long, and I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. Dame, do you listen to those?
I do. I haven't listened to this week's yet because I've been busy, but yeah, I do listen to those
I feel like
regularly.
This week, I did 2 this week. I did Tuesday and I did Thursday.
What was the other one?
Tuesday is the day after Monday, and then Thursday was yesterday. Yesterday was
American Cars.
American Cars. Like, what is an American car based on where they're made? And then Tuesday, I think it was the bittersweet tax refund or something like that.
I don't know if I saw that one.
I didn't get a notification about that one. That's why I was confused.
Oh, Lord. Let's start the show before we lose
Everyone.
everyone. Hey, this is something I was going to talk to you guys about off the air.
Oh, great. Let's do it.
Okay, I had this thought, and you guys can feel however you're going to feel. The show's evolved a bit here. You know, we're doing different stuff. I love the stock picks. I'm not sure the radio audience gives a rip about the stock picks. What if whenever we cover like the progress, we do it in this podcast format? Because again, I don't know much about radio listeners. Other than most drive Buicks, what do you think about that idea of just like, because it eats an entire show when we do it that way?
Yeah. I've got no problems doing that inter segment stock pick updates occasionally. I think potentially it gives us a window to maybe get a few more people involved as well.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that. I don't know when we're maybe next week we do the first quarter update.
Yeah.
I need GM stock to dive a little bit more in the next couple of days.
That's why he didn't want an update today. Yeah.
I mean, I took a sneak peek at the stock picks for this quarter.
Yo boy.
Man, my gamble is not paying off. Let's just say that.
Well,
Not
Kristen
yet.
was like, hey, there's car issues. I'm going to choose a satellite radio. Like, wow, how indirect of you.
That's not why I chose it.
You literally said that's why you chose it.
No, I chose it because their business model I don't understand. I don't understand why people would pay so much for radio.
Okay. Speaking of, time to do a radio segment.
Free radio segment.
Here's the show this week. We're doing a full breakdown. If there's a household income of $100,000, what should your financial life look like? Is that how I describe this?
I think so.
Exactly it.
We're gonna do a series. We're gonna hit like people tell us what you want to see. We're gonna start with 100. I think we're gonna go back to 50 after that, maybe, or 7. I don't know, something. We'll go higher, we'll go lower. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna hit the poverty line sometime. We're gonna say, like, what's it like? What is it? You know? And our goal is to be intellectually honest, right? Like we're gonna say, hey, if you're paying for this sort of thing and you're making this sort of money, probably not the best idea. Like, we're gonna do our best to be honest, but empathetic. Does that cover that?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I gotta admit, the new camera dialed in, the new angle with the lighting and this white sweatshirt, I feel like a model.
Well,
And you've been working out, so you're probably feeling
That's true,
good.
Well, we did get photos taken yesterday here at the office. I told you, we got a notify. It's a thing. And so they were getting some pictures taken. It was Molly and I. It looked like prom photos. It was a good time. Very awkward. Okay, ready?
yeah.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us at askpete@PeteThePlanner.com. at PeteThePlanner.com. That's Ask Pete at PeteThePlanner.com. And here's what can happen. We can take your question and turn it into an entire radio show podcast live stream. By we, I mean me, Peter Nicholas Dunn, Damian Andrew Dunn, and Kristen, I don't remember her middle name, Elanius. Kristen, what is your middle name?
Marie.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. I'm a child of the 90s. Hello.
Kristen Marie Elanius. Hello, Dame.
Good day, Pete.
Starting a new series this week. We're examining the life of different income levels in these United States. So we're starting with the roundest of round numbers, not zero, $100,000 household income. What you get ya? What you get ya? You know what I mean, Dame?
I know exactly what you mean, Pete.
Now, Kristen was talking to Mrs. Planner about this and this morning.
Oh.
And she said, well, is this a one-person household or a two-person household? And I said, I think that's an important part of this discussion, is that as we go through this, we're going to have to talk a little bit about the differences. But for me, it's just the household is at 100.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I think realistically that this is most likely in practice a two-person household, but we could get caught up in all those different types of semantics. The reality is the income is 100, no matter if there's two earners or one.
It brings a great question. Eric is watching on YouTube live right now. He goes to youtube.com/PeteThePlanner. If you're listening on the radio this weekend, you can go there and watch the recording, but we're not live. Sleeping in. Comparing $100,000 in Seattle, New York, San Francisco, LA versus in the Midwest? Question mark. Well, here's where this gets interesting. Numbers are numbers, man. You got 100% of 100K to spend, and so choices must be made. Are you going to be forced to spend more on housing? Oh, you betcha. But there's other elements that you're going to have to sacrifice, including your financial future. So, Dame, let's get started. Too much. Okay. So Kristen, anything you want to get out before we get going here? Any big caveats or anything you want people to know or understand? Dame, I'll ask you the same thing.
I just think it's important to understand as part of this series that we're going to be able to do here that it's so easy to not be empathetic for people at different income levels. If someone is making more than you at this $100,000 income level, it's so easy to say, well, it would be so much easier for me if I had access to XYZ amount. That's not the point of today.
So true. Nothing has bothered me more in my content career, which is gross. Media career. When I'll answer a question about someone who makes X amount or Y amount, and then the first comment is like, well, I make a different amount. It's like, okay, that's the dumbest thing you could have possibly typed. Dame, anything you want people to know?
No household has the same priorities as you. And if you choose to spend your money in certain ways that maybe don't line up with the neighbors or friends or family, okay. The whole point of this exercise is to help you understand where you may need to be making sacrifices, or you may just be required to make sacrifices, and what that long-term cost may be for you. So if you choose to spend your dollars in different ways based on geography or preference or whatever it is, that's on you, but we just want to help you think through the process.
I want the end result of this episode, besides millions of views, I want people to stop lying to themselves about justifying decisions based on their income. That's it. I just want people to be honest with themselves. And it's with that, Dame, when a person makes $100,000 gross income a year, what does that break down to monthly? Dame, $100,000 gross is how much monthly?
100,000 divided by 12. Was that 833 a month?
833.33. I've provided show and tell slides. So if you're listening on the radio or listening on a podcast, which is like a radio in a box, which is also a box, go to youtube.com/PeteThePlanner and you can watch this. Okay, Kristen. Man, people love to budget their gross income to live problematic, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because $100,000 feels so different from what actually hits your bank account by the time you're contributing for your future self. You're paying the man, you're paying for your health care. It does not look nearly the same when it hits that bank account.
Dame, is the term "the man" inclusive enough?
Uh,
Can we
I
blame
think
women too?
I'm sure. I mean, that may bring in some other angles, but let's just stick with the man since it's I think widely accepted in that context.
Kristen, do you want to go ahead and tease a future episode that we may have on this show? Or do you want to save that for later?
Save it for later.
Okay. $8,333 a month. Dame, there are three elements, three buckets that we must account for. And it's sort of the discussion of this entire show today. The first bucket is the future. You immediately have to think about the future, no matter what your income is. And not that this is pass, fail, succeed, fail, but I would say the vast majority of people fail because that's not the first thing they think of when they think of their income, whether it be $100,000 or something else. Dane, we're being even kind of conservative here with what we're recommending this person with $100,000 household, what they do with their money. How much are we recommending bare minimum they set aside immediately out of their paycheck?
10%.
10% out of the 401k, which does reduce your tax burden if you're using a traditional 401k as opposed to a Roth. Then, Kristen, we got to pay the man $775 for federal income tax, $637 for FICA, which includes Social Security and Medicare. And then you got to pay the local man, Dame, for all of these, this whole series on income. I'm just using Indiana, okay, as the local entity, the state entity. So there is state income tax here, $395 for state and local tax. And then, Kristen, we are officially on to arguably the first point of debate, which is healthcare expenses. I went with a round number. Of course, I used some outside research to say, what do we think a person has to spend on healthcare, whether it's for a family, an individual, or just a couple? I got us pegged at $500. Weigh in. What do you think?
You know, my gut reaction was, does this feel a little high? But when I think about my healthcare expense, it's from the perspective of a single person. So if this is the household income that we said, maybe that's more likely what we're looking at in this scenario. 500 probably is realistic for a lot of people. Healthcare plans they vary so much.
Dame, what do you think?
I think it's a huge wild card. I honestly don't know if 500 encapsulates the reality that most people face, especially since most of the people listening, I'm assuming, have more than one person in their household. I think it's a starting point, but like I said at the very beginning, we've got to make decisions based on your reality. And if you have to spend more towards healthcare, then we'll have to do that. And
by the way, and Eric asked a really good question. Maybe he says, well, are you amortizing the cost of visits over the year? I'm saying health insurance coverage. When I say healthcare, I mean health insurance. So we're calling it $500. It's either more or less. But as we go into the break, here's where we're left with. $5,200 a month is what we're about to budget. And we're going to do that next on the Pete the Planner Show. Life on $100,000 a year income. That's next. I liked that outro a lot.
That was a great outro.
Oh, really good.
Solid. Definitive.
So in the chat here, people are, Tom, specifically, you say 500 for healthcare. Yeah. Do you think that's high or low? I'm just curious. Eric, I'd love to know if you think it's high or low. It is for health insurance deducted out of your paycheck. Chris and Dame, do you have a feeling one way or the other about that?
I think different industries are maybe a little more poised to feel differently about that $500 number. I think someone who maybe works for like government,
used to work for government.
Yeah. probably feels like that's a lot, but someone who works for a smaller employer or maybe works in like tech or another industry that's a little more niche, they might feel like 500 is right on the money.
Eric says it's the Eric show today, which is fine. That's what it's supposed to be. That feels high unless paying on the open market. Employer healthcare has been between $30 and $100, $180 for me, depending on the company. That's great. I mean, that's awesome. I do think, look, there's been times, Damon, you and I are very in the same boat. We've paid $1,000 a month for coverage. And if we worked for a much larger company, it would be tens of dollars, maybe $100. So 500 does kind of split the difference.
Yeah, like I said, there's so many variables that go into this. Employer size, are you buying on the open market? How big is your family? Where are you at? What kind of risk pool are you being tossed into as well? I mean, just all sorts of factors that go into this equation. If you would have put 500 here, we can make I think a pretty reasonable argument. If you would have put more than that, I think we could have made an argument, or less. It's just where we landed on this based on some of the research that she did.
Okay, so here's how I want people to think about this, and I'll say when we go back to Era as well, is that I want people to think, okay, I think it should be X. Great, then either subtract or add to the $5,200 a month net. That's it. Chris just noted he pays us $610 a month. Great, subtract in 110 from your 5,200. You're at $5090. $5090 a month net. Kristen, I think we save the topic for the different show, maybe for that show. I don't want to reveal too much because it is such a spicy meatball take. I don't think the people can handle it today.
We do not need to tip the apple cart more than we are already going to do.
I think you need to sleep on it too, to be honest with you. Kristen hit us with such a hot take this morning in pre-show that she was, and she was on it. And Dame and I were like, you know.
It made two middle-aged white guys very uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable.
I'll sleep on it. I'll debate it with my friends, and then I'll come back to you.
Oh, yeah. Just people would click on it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Great. It's going well. We're doing it. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. Wait.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
Back on the Pete the Planner show. Here's this week's show, plain and simple. What does a financial life look like when your household brings in 100,000 American dollars per year? Gross, meaning before taxes and all that other stuff. And then, like, how are you supposed to live? What are you supposed to do? It's a series we're doing. We're going to hit all sorts of incomes. No incomes are good. No incomes are bad. We ask that as you hear every single show within the series, you don't lose your mind and like, well, I wish I made that much. Well, you can think that, but each category has got its challenges. And we're going to start with the challenge that threw this triumvirate into a tizzy in our Slack channel this week: housing. Not only what can you spend, but what it will actually get you. All right, so Dame, here at your money line, we like 25% of take-home pay in a vacuum. Again, these can go up, these can go down. 25% of pay to go towards housing, right?
That's where we've historically stood for as long as I've been here. 25% of your take-home income to be dedicated towards housing. That's principal and interest. That's escrow. That's kind of the whole kit and caboodle, right?
Yeah, it is. So, Kristen, $1,300 of a $5,200 a month take-home pay. $1,300 towards housing for someone making $100,000 a year. Does this pass the sniff test?
Okay, it does. But, gentlemen,
Where
am I living for $1,300 a month?
I'll say this. Clearly, we're talking about the Midwest today, and this is where it can start to get into other cities. at a 6.75% mortgage rate, okay, which is sort of current mortgage rates. That buys, Dame, $154,000 home.
Okay.
100,000. Like, it's so interesting to me that we're now in a moment where we're bringing back months and months of shows within this one right now saying there was a period of time which a salary went further. This ain't it. We're not in that period of time.
Yeah.
You're saying you make $100,000 a year and you run your budget perfectly. Those were finger quotes. Dame, you can afford a $154,000 house right now based on interest rate.
I mean, math is math. It's hard for me to dispute that. But the reality of the situation is most people are going to look at that number and the area they live in and say, that's just not possible. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not here to tell you what you can and can't afford in your neck of the woods. But that's where we go back to the first segment and say you're going to have to make some decisions based on where those other dollars are going. If you're going to allocate more towards housing, it's got to come from somewhere. You can't outspend. Well, you can outspend your income. It just doesn't work very well for very long. So take it with a grain of salt. 1,300 is where we would traditionally say that's where you should be spending those dollars in housing. That's up to you on whether or not you think it's reasonable.
Now, Kristen, Eric comments here on YouTube Live and he says, "Look, I'm in Seattle. I pay $3,400 a month on a 2-bedroom apartment." First off, Eric, we are not asking what your household income is out of respect and privacy. But oh no, let's say it is $100,000 and you're forced to spend $3,400 a month. That means, Kristen, we got to find $2,100 of extra housing budget within the rest of our obligations here. That's what we're asking people to do. If you say, great, my household income is $100,000, but I spend $1,800 a month on housing, not $1,300 a month, great. All we're asking today is that when we go through the other categories, you somehow, some way find $500 a month to put towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, maybe I'm just biased. We could debate this too, but I think the easiest place to pull that is the transportation category. That very next category we have here, 15% on transportation. I don't know about the two of you, but I haven't spent that on transportation in years.
For someone that doesn't know the price of fuel, that tracks. Dame, $780 a month is what's allocated towards transportation for someone making $100,000 a year of a household income.
Mhm.
That's 15%. This is interesting, right? Because this seems absurd if it's a one-income household with one person living there. It seems more reasonable with two people driving. But Kristen's right. If you're going to have some wiggle room in this thing, this is the spot.
Potentially. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you live in a major metro area where there is reasonable public transportation. I mean, there's a potential opportunity to save some cash there. But man, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday on one of our participants that called us. And they're in a great situation financially, but if they go into 2-car payments at this point, I mean, they bump into, they blow past this number really, really quick. Now, again, their income's a little bit different, but if you have 2-car payments in a household, it is incredibly easy to exceed 15%.
I agree. I mean, I've seen people say, well, we're only going to have 1 car payment at a time. Sort of a reasonable strategy. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a loose strategy, but it's reasonable. Kristen, this includes whatever payment on whatever vehicle. It includes maintenance, it includes insurance, it includes fuel, bus passes, whatever. I'm with you, though. I'll say early in my career, we got to a point where we owned our cars outright. We didn't use a ton of gas, and we're just paying for insurance. It was like a 1%. So that 14% went to daycare, went to other things, right? So let's keep going. There's 3 other essentials. We're saying that if a person making $100,000 a year, they got $5,200 a month total to spend because the others were taken out before the direct deposit. We're on to food. Dane, we're not going to debate this too much in the 2.5 minutes we have left in this segment, but we're tagging it at 12%, $624 a month. Choices will be made.
Absolutely. It's not nearly as easy to get by with this amount of money as it was before, but you got to have food on your plate and in your face. And this is roughly where we think you should be.
Two other categories in the essentials. Pre-show, we debated these a little bit of like what should be in essentials and what should not. Utilities, so loose, right? So loose. It goes from gas and electric and water and waste to internet to cell phone. Like what are we doing? We're saying 10% at $520, which is tough. That would be really tough. And then $520 towards savings. Kristen, if you wanted to pick another category specifically in this segment where a person has the most discretion, is someone making $5,200 a month saving an additional $520 a month towards the unknown. Do you think that's happening?
I don't think it's happening. And that's, I think that's the point we're showcasing here is that look at how much income you free up if you drop the savings and you drop the 401k. And those are decisions that we put off on our future selves in order to feel more secure, more free today. We see that every single day in our work.
Dame, I'm going to do some loose math here. Okay. Let's say the $500 a month that we were putting towards healthcare is $200. So I've just saved $300. Okay. I'm going to say that we're saving $300 on an inadequate 401k deposit. So we're saving $600 here.
Okay.
And then we're not saving into an emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
So there goes that $520. That's $1,100 more a month that people are typically putting towards these other categories. When we come back, we're only left with $1,456. How will we spend it with the rest of our lives? That's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. It feels like a game show no one would watch.
Yeah.
Dame, I'm so glad you brought up the phone call you were on yesterday with one of the people we serve. Because, having all of us on this call, this is a call. Welcome to the call, everybody. Hi. Everyone on the podcast here has had thousands of this conversation.
Sure.
Thousands of this conversation. And it's always different, but it's always in the same thread of, great, you don't think this category is realistic? Then you're going to have to pull back on other categories. And that's it.
Yeah. This is just a big exercise in decision making and prioritization. If you can figure out where you want your dollars to go in the macro sense, you can try and back into where you have to spend those dollars. But the reality is there are certain things you should be taking a little bit more keeping more of a close eye on. And if you're not, it's only going to probably be you that's going to pay for that oversight in the future.
I want to ask both of you this, but I want to ask at least the people on the live stream as well. So please put it in the chat if you can. Here's the question. On $100,000 a year household income, do you feel like the $5,200 a month net is too high? It's too low. You actually think the net is more than that? Or do you think it's just right? So do you think we're representing that it's going to be a $5,200 net to spend a month on an $83.33 a month gross? Do you think it's just right? Do you think actually you're going to have a lot more than that, or you're going to have a lot less than that? Dame, I'll start with you. What do you think of the three choices? What do you think?
I think it's reasonable based on what we've got, because if somebody's saving more to their 401k or health insurance costs, it is definitely within reason for somebody that makes $100,000 to come home with $4,500 a month.
Chris?
I think that most people are going to feel like it's a little low, like that our number is a little conservative, but I think it's really hard to argue with the percentages that we've put forth for average healthcare expense and 401k, namely.
I think, again, anytime you give mass advice in internet or media outlet, you have to make generalizations. You just do. Otherwise, you just get caught in the weird nitpicky nature of this. I'm pretty darn comfortable with this, guys. Like, I'm really comfortable with 5,000, 5,200, somewhere in that range. And the funny thing about this is, if someone's like, actually, it's a lot more than that, that's someone who's not thinking about the future. And then that's where this whole thing, I don't want to get too dystopian. It gets really scary. It gets incredibly scary because once you're making 100 and you don't account for that, it's really hard to find a reason as your income goes up for you to account for it more. David, people don't make these giant income leaps and then they're like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is get back on track for retirement. No one thinks that way.
I won't go quite that far. I will say the vast majority of people don't think that way. I've talked to a couple people who, whether it's through job change or a big promotion, whatever it is, they see that they're going to have a lot more money. There are a few people out there that are super disciplined and say, listen, I know I've been slacking in a couple of these areas and I absolutely have to try and make up for lost time or at least get the things corrected. And they'll jump in there. But that is not the conversation that that I'm used to having.
Kristen, Quincy makes a really great point that actually makes this all worse. Thanks for ruining the show, Quincy. He thinks their numbers are accurate, but he thinks it's only scary that they're contributing 10% to retirement. I'll say this, Kristen, I'm curious what you think. 10% is just short, depending on how old the person is. They're in their 20s, 12 to 14% would be ideal, but maybe the match gets them there.
Yeah, that's really what I was hoping, is that someone at this income level hopefully has at least a 3% match, and that gets us into that suggested range. But to your point, the longer you've waited to put off contributing to retirement, the more you need to contribute. And then I'm right there with Quincy and saying 10% might not be enough.
And it's possible that, once you get your emergency fund fully established, that you could potentially redirect some of those dollars into more retirement savings. And then if you needed to pull back out to refund the emergency fund, if you had to use it, then you could. So I think there's some wiggle room with those dollars, but 10% plus a company match, I think you get pretty close to the target that we want to see people at.
You guys remember when I started on my fitness journey a couple of months ago, and my trainer said to me what the key to all of this would be?
Greek yogurt.
Greek yogurt. Guess who forgot to grab Greek yogurt out of the fridge this morning for the first time in months and is now starving?
Oh, man.
Nashville hot chicken for lunch.
Where are you tempted? What are you doing?
Well, I didn't know see, I'm the kind of person where, like, if my plan goes awry, then it's just like caution to the wind. So I didn't know if that meant you were going to like totally abandon ship for the day. I was asking.
Yeah, DoorDash Fat Dan's.
Hey guys, I don't know how to say this in a nicer way, so I'm not going to try. I dislike you both. It is so hard to not order Nashville hot chicken, but I'm wearing a white sweatshirt, so it's sort of a deterrent.
That's fair.
Audience friends, when you hear the topic that Kristen wants to talk about here,
Oh my God.
you are going to lose your mind. Kristen, don't get oversensitive about this because we got to. Damn, are we going to do this?
Pete, what if we both call in sick that day and make Kristen do it by herself?
That would be so cruel.
Hey, there would be the highest ratings ever for two reasons.
Yeah, probably.
One, the topic, and two, you and I are there.
Yeah.
Listen, I think I am, humbly
Yes.
speaking, I think I'm pretty good at delivering what can be a tough opinion with empathy. And I think if you give me time to think about my delivery, it's not going to feel as scary.
This almost feels like a third rail discussion to me, if we're being perfectly honest, Pete.
Dame, I'm with you. Like, there's some things I just don't weigh in on. Like, I don't.
Yeah, sure.
I'll give you an example. People are like, I'm even afraid to say what I'm about to say. People are like, what do you think about breastfeeding? And I'm like, I have no opinion. They're like, what do you think it's good about? No, I'm out. I'm like,
I'm out.
I don't. And it's not that I'm like gross. It's just like, Not for me. Like you don't. It does not matter what I think about that. Dame, were you with me?
I totally. I may have a different take on that particular topic, but yeah, whatever.
Kristen, do you want to put the thesis out there?
No.
No.
No, you have to let me no. You have to let me think about this in a little bit greater detail. I will socialize this with some of my friends this weekend, and I will make sure that I present it in a way that doesn't get us canceled.
Pete, what if you and I don't do that show and it's Kristen and a few of her friends?
Oh, that's interesting. That's actually, or some other folks from the office.
Yeah, from YML. Yeah.
Dame, if someone was ever going to get us canceled, like a ranking, I would think it's me, you going like way like anti-government spending thing, and then Kristen. But now, boy, have the turntables turned.
Yeah. I don't know. We're gonna have a pretty good talk before we decide if we're gonna tackle that one on air.
I'm actually going to go out after the show and just hit the.
No, that's not fair. Don't present me like that to our colleagues.
How about to the person you report to? Can I hit that?
That's the person I thought that we would have
On the show. I know, me too.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like she would be on my side.
Maybe I might ask Mrs. Planner after the show. Okay, let's move on.
People love this. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it is probably obnoxious to listen to more so than normal.
Sorry.
Okay, are we ready? Maybe. 3.
Alert, alert. It's time for a radio segment.
Back on the Pete the Planner show. Here's the show this week, y'all. You're driving around to the Home and Garden Center picking up your gazing ball. Dame, did you ever have a gazing ball in your landscaping?
No.
Kristen?
What is that?
Oh, Lord. You don't know what a gazing ball is?
No.
It's sort of hard to explain to someone. Okay, so Kristen, picture this. You've got a landscaping bed in front of your home.
Mm-hmm.
And what you got is a plastic or concrete column-style pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the pedestal is a glass iridescent sphere.
Yes.
Now, you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Why do those exist?
Oh, no.
Who was like, we need a knockoff crystal ball here on this Roman pedestal. Damn, one of the all-time worst ideas ever.
Well, it's something for the garden gnomes to look at while they're out tending garden.
That is the question. Like, who's looking at it?
I have no idea.
It's
do
the
have a garden
peeping Tom. They attract peeping Toms.
Do they?
We're on the radio. Okay. So sometimes I forget. Okay. So what we've done is we've crafted a financial life of $100,000 household income. After taxes and retirement deposit and healthcare, we're down to $5,200 a month. Then we hit the major categories: housing, transportation, food, utilities, and additional savings. Now we are on to everything else. This is where the war begins. And we have a war group chat that we will talk about this as well. Dave, you like that?
Yeah.
$1,456 is left over. And let's go through the categories that we've listed that are left. $1,456 a month left after housing, transportation, food, utilities, and savings. What is left that we have to account for?
Please be aware. Yeah, we are not saying that certain amounts of money go to any of these categories. These are up for your discretion. Things like entertainment, health, grooming, which costs less for some of us than others, life insurance, travel, holidays and gifts, hobbies and pets, miscellaneous, childcare and kids activities, and debt.
Okay. So, Kristen, you made a point in the group Slack that one of these things gets immediately moved to the musts. Which is it?
It's debt.
I thought it was pets. It was pets.
I did not say that.
No. The debt is if it's pets.
I said sometimes we make decisions in our lives that are for more or less irrevocable that turn what are discretionary expenses into non-discretionary expenses. The decisions of your past that potentially created debt, then those become non-discretionary expenses. Your choice to have children, their care becomes a non-discretionary expense. Your choice to have animals, a non-discretionary expense. They start as discretionary, but then once you make that decision, they move to non.
Time out.
FWIW.
Okay.
For what it's
Yeah, guys, yeah.
said out loud, that's no good.
No.
Like OMG, like people know FWIW for what it's worth. With the 10% savings element of like the core stuff there, I just view if a person has debt, they're just taking that money and putting it towards debt. It's a net worth increase function to me. I don't know. Kristen shaking her head. Dame, please agree with me.
IMO, I think you're wrong.
That was fabulous.
No, if they've got debt, it has to be service, Pete. I mean, it becomes an obligation. They are debt obligations. It is something that is not up for you to decide how much you're going to pay. You pay it.
That's
Well,
fair.
And I think part of Pete, I think I sort of agree with you when someone gets to a point of stability with an emergency fund. But the reality that we see so often is you have these conflicting priorities of I need to establish some kind of savings, but I also need to service this outstanding debt that I have. And that's where that equation becomes a lot more difficult.
Fair. Now, pets, Kristen, what's interesting, I've got a few different categories on here, such as childcare, kids' activities, pets. That's where you're caring for the life of someone else. Those theoretically would also get moved to the core during those periods of life because you can't not do it if you have pets. I mean, you can't just, I don't know how that works, but like if you're at $1,456 left over a month to put all of these categories in, and childcare is one of them, you're toast.
Yeah, having a couple kids and a couple dogs. I mean, we've talked about this on the show, and I will throw myself under the bus. My dogs cost me like $150 a month a piece over the course of the year.
Dame, that's like compared to
Okay, but I'm saying
Right.
look at that at the $1,400 a month. Somebody has 2 dogs and then you also have daycare expense. It's like these things that feel like just very basic, like family structure of a couple kids, a couple dogs, and suddenly our discretionary income is so small.
Dame, this is why I think it's so much more than 1456. If someone has all of these things, specifically debt,
Mhm.
childcare, kids' activities, and pets, then they are breaking the rules somewhere else along the way. They're either not putting the right amount in their 401k, and by right amount, I'm being strict. I'm saying the right amount. Like they're off track. They're not putting in the amount that will lead to a successful outcome.
Yeah, I mean they're likely underinsured with life insurance, likely at that point. I mean there's any number of things that you can go through and say there's probably a hole somewhere where there shouldn't be because of the choices and the prioritizations you've made. Will that show up now? Probably not. Will it show up when you're 65? Yeah, probably.
Oh no, absolutely. Right. So at least in the last segment, we said, okay, we think there's about $1,100 a month
Mhm.
that a person is likely to pump into their budget, right? They're just say, oh, I'm not going to save on this. I'm not going to save on that. I'm at $1,100 a month or more. Okay, great. So here's what that's got to account for. That $1,400 a month is now $2,500 a month, and that $2,500 a month discretionary amount probably is going to increase your housing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first place it's going to go up.
Sure.
And then beyond that, entertainment could be low, health could be low, grooming, as Dame and I can attest, could be low. Life insurance could be a couple $100. Travel, holidays, and gifts spread out over the course of the year. That's substantial. I mean, it's probably hundreds of dollars a month, right?
Yeah.
But it's that childcare, it's that debt. That's where this gets interesting. So, in conclusion, Dame Kristen, I'm putting it to you. A person can create a stable financial life on $100,000 a year household income. Kristen, do you agree or disagree?
I 100% agree with that.
Dame, agree or disagree?
Agree.
I agree as well. And I think as we go through this series and we go backwards off of 100K down to poverty level, where we're going to really get there, we're going to have an honest conversation. We're going to say, this is the expectation at that income. Does it make the person bad? Does it make them unintelligent? Does it make them... No. We're just looking at the realities of other people, which I think is a great thing to do. By the way, when we reverse that and we go up to $250,000 or $500,000 a year of income, the expectation is the same as you listen to this, is that you don't demonize those people. You're just like, let's see what they've got to deal with. So that's the nature of this series. But coming up after the break, biggest waste of money of the week. And Dame's back with the news. Busy news week. So we'll see if he hits the major items. All that's next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Is the series going to work? That's the question.
I think it is.
Chris says yes. Dame.
TBD. People in the chat. What do you think? First one.
Yeah. Be honest. Jeremiah, here's the thing. The Boss Hog of Liberty. Our shows have been running long. Am I yapping? Do you guys think I'm talking so much that we're going to an hour 10 every week now? Is it me?
We spent 15 minutes on an intro today, so I'll let you be the judge.
That seemed passive aggressive.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I'm just saying we spent 15 minutes on an intro.
Hour 10, so it's like we're the Joe Rogan experience.
We'd have to be like 2.5 times longer of an episode. It's
Train by day, Joe Rogan by night. Say something
like that.
Train all day. I don't know. Okay. Jeremiah, the Boss Hog of Liberty, says a really good podcast goes 90 to 120 minutes. Their episodes of the Boss Hog of Liberty were so long. They were unbelievable.
Really?
Okay.
You know what we didn't account for?
Uh-oh.
Oh, Lord.
The spending.
No, please don't let this be major, because I don't need to lose sleep tonight.
No. It's not
Okay.
major. I just think it's an interesting talking point that I would like to discuss at other income levels, which is
Urban.
Yeah.
well, that's what I was going to say, is like the vices of life. Like if someone smokes or they drink or they buy scratch off tickets at the gas station, like at different income levels, how much does that award you? We could argue that it's entertainment, of course, and that's where we would in practice tell someone to put those expenses, but by not explicitly calling it out, I think we forget how much societally we tend to spend on that category.
It's a good point. I mean, we all have vices, whether it be the brown liquor or cigarettes, recreational drugs. I think scratch off tickets,
Scratchers,
vape,
charcuterie.
I'm still just blown away that bottle still exists in your office. If I'd known that, I would have swung by on Saturday and grabbed it and just stolen it back.
The fact that I haven't taken it home is the only reason it still exists.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Here we go. We do. Okay.
Can we?
Alert.
Time out.
It's
Wow. Regarding the news, there was a lot of stuff that went on this week, but I've intentionally stayed away from things that might be viewed as political commentary.
You, Queen. I don't care.
Okay, I just said to see if I hit the major stuff. I intentionally avoided a lot of the major stuff.
I think reporting on economic news is not political.
Okay.
I think if you report on the economic news and say, and that's why this person sucks, that's political. Or if you report the economic news and you say, and that's why this person's a genius, it's political. But if you just report the news, report the news.
Okay. All right. I will take that into consideration for future fourth segments. Let's go.
Okay. I'm not ready. Should be. Oh boy. Okay. The show is now 10 hours long. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is the Arnolfo di Cambio Smoke Double Old Fashioned Glass Set. Elevate your drinking experience with the thick stems of these sleek double old fashioned glasses. Penned by award-winning designer Joe Colombo, the Smoke Double Old Fashioned glass from Arnolfo di Cambio elevates the drinking experience. Literally, it keeps the liquid cantilevered above.
Time out.
What a great word. Kristen?
What?
Okay, here we go. Kristen, for $5 American,
Okay.
spell cantilevered.
Oh, I can't spell it all. Cantil lever LE
Mm-hmm.
VERED.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
Wow, I owe you $5. Anyway, it keeps the liquid cantilevered above the base with a substantial stem that's set to the side, giving the handcrafted crystal glass an architectural form. Sold as a set of 2. Dame, for those that aren't watching the live stream, which is the vast majority of humanity, can you explain the visual that is this glass?
So it almost looks like a rocks glass is hovering in air over another glass disc underneath, but it's connected with a thick piece of glass in between. I mean, it took me a minute, honestly, for my brain to connect what was going on with it. And then once I got it, I was like, why? But it's kind of cool.
Okay, so think of, here's maybe a way too. You think of a wine glass.
Oh, yeah. Okay. With the stem moved off to the side.
Yeah, the stem comes down the middle of the glass. This is pushed all the way to the far edge of the glass and then comes down.
It's only the far edge because it's the way it's rotated right now, Pete. It could be the near edge.
That's so true. Okay, Kristen, how much does this cost for a set of 2 of these things?
The set of 2. Wait, were they crystal?
I believe so. Yes.
I don't know anything about crystal. Okay.
Crystal? I know nothing about crystal, so I'm glad I asked.
I don't know. I'm just curious. Okay, so for the set of 2, this is a set that's $130.
Tim?
$80.
300 American dollars. Dame, what's in the news this week?
I don't know if you've noticed, but Kristen is cleaning my clock on the biggest waste of monies of the week this year.
I have noticed. I think last week she was on fire. Really good guess, I believe, last week.
Yeah. Last week was a good guess as well, yes.
Yeah.
Robinhood, the digital brokerage that channeled the meme stock and crypto craze, is angling to keep its youthful clientele as they graduate from YOLO investing to estate planning. The company said this week that it plans to roll out many new services, from wealth management tools and bespoke investment portfolios to those fancy things called bank accounts. All of them cater to Americans as they age and earn more money and navigate more complicated financial lives. Robinhood's customers' median age has climbed to 35 years old from 31 years old over the past 5 years. I'm going to tell you one of the things that they're thinking about doing, and it blows my mind. But here,
long-term care insurance, I'm hanging up.
No. As it did with brokerage, Robinhood is leaning into the ubiquitous presence mobile phones play in the lives of consumers. Some of its new offerings are more likely to appeal to a younger crowd. The perks planned for bank account holders include discounted helicopter rides and home deliveries of cash that are as easy as ordering a meal on DoorDash.
I want my head to explode. I don't want to be part of this earth anymore. What is going on?
Why would I need cash delivered to my home?
Because gas is so expensive.
Yeah. Home deliveries of cash.
Wait, that was your question as opposed to why would you not need helicopter rides?
I
I
feel
mean, a
like
helicopter
honestly,
ride.
a
I mean,
helicopter
who doesn't enjoy a discounted helicopter ride? Because if you want a discount somewhere, it's with somebody who's going to take you up, and something that is aerodynamically unstable will just collapse to the ground if it loses power. Deliveries of cash to your home. That just
seems so backwards for a business model that is so tech.
digital.
Speaking of reasons I pray for a meteor, Dame, did you put the GameStop news within the news this week?
I thought about it, but I didn't. Do you want me to go find it real quick?
No, I mean, we can hit it quick, but basically GameStop is taking on debt to buy corporate reserves of
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
How are they able to take on debt is my question.
They issue it. They've got cash on hand.
Oh.
Yeah, they billions, and this would take them
Billion,
like 4 or 5 or 6 billion, and they're just going to buy a bunch of crypto. Anyway, Dane, what else is in the news?
The U.S. consumer confidence dropped to a 12-year low. That's the 4th straight month, according to American consumer confidence. American consumer confidence fell as inflation and worries over tariffs dimmed their view of the economy, per a report from the conference board. The reading was the worst in over a decade and below the threshold, which the conference board says could forecast an imminent recession. Consumers' optimism about future income, which had held up quite strongly in the past few months, largely vanished, a conference board economist said.
Consumer confidence is one of those measures that always tickles me, right? It's so fickle.
Yeah.
I mean, if again, sniff test is a big part of what we do around here. Chris, and this passes the sniff test, right? Consumer confidence at 12-year low. I would think that. Do you think that?
I would agree.
Yeah, totally.
And it's, again, you can pick a whole interest rates, inflation, tariffs, the price of cars here in a week. Yeah, like so we got a third car for our household because we have a teen driver. So this was a transaction that happened this week. And one of the primary reasons we did it this week is because what is about to happen with the price of cars? Because here's what's going to happen, Dame. Tariffs, right? So the cars that are already on the lot, the new cars that are already on the lot aren't going to be subject to tariffs, but that doesn't mean they're going to drop them below MSRP. They're going to get while the getting's good. And by the way, the used car on the lot is also going to increase in price because the new cars are going to increase in price. And then the tariffs will actually take effect when the new cars come in that are subject to the tariffs. And then it gets worse. I can't imagine it goes any differently than that. Dame, can it go differently than that?
I mean, only if you probably buy a car that is mainly sourced and built in America. And there's only one company that does that.
Yeah, you should listen to Storytime with Pete yesterday and you would know.
Sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Don't mean to bust your chops. But you're right. Tesla is 3 of the top 10 most American-built cars are Teslas. 3 are Hondas. 1 is a Toyota. 1 is a Volkswagen. 1 is a Jeep. And there you go. Kristen, do you think the tariff things with cars goes any differently than I just explained? I hope you say I'm wrong. Can you see it going any differently?
I mean, I don't see it going any differently, which is concerning given that we're already in a place where we finance so much car collectively. And then when that purchase becomes more expensive, it just gives me anxiety for us just nationally in this category.
It's one of those things that I think on 95% of issues, I can make an argument. I could probably and would be willing to make an argument about either side. Well, yeah, I'll argue that. I can't even see it. I can't, because Dame, here's where I get stuck. We want American-made cars. Okay, great. There's 2 cars of the top 10 that are American-made. Tesla, fine, great. We're not doing that today. Honda.
Yeah.
Not an American car company, but they're American-built cars. So then what happens to Ford and GM and like I don't understand what a person is actually supposed to think or do.
No, it's just a horrible situation. And I'm saying that somewhat selfishly because I know there's a new car purchase in the future for my household, probably by the end of the year.
Jeez, well, that's breaking news. Who knew that? Can't wait to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, it'll cost a little bit more than you want. All right. Well, this is fun. Hey, if you want to watch this show with graphics, do so. Go to youtube.com/Pete the Planner. Sending good vibes because good vibes are all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner Show. Here's a question for you I thought about. And I know we're at the hour 10 mark. This is like, if you do listen to Joe Rogan, this is where they're like, hey man, have you had the new Cheetos? Like, it just like, it goes into this direction. You're like, of course it's the 3-hour show. He just asked about snacks. When the radio show gets canceled, do you think the podcast gets better, or do you think it loses its structure?
I think that would be the problem, is it would lose structure. And we have so little to begin with.
I think it gets better.
Like I'm not a structure person, as maybe
Yeah.
you guys know this. I think I could spin out of control.
Which would make it better.
But maybe, look, here's the fine line of me. It can get annoying and then it can't come back. Like, once you're actually annoyed by me, then you're dismissive of me. And I get that. I get it. I mean, you guys have both crossed that Rubicon.
Yeah. I mean, I think with a little bit of pre-planning, we could navigate successfully a little less structure. We would just have tracks that we try and stay somewhat close to.
Maybe just take like melatonin or something before the shows. I don't know how any of that works. Okay, well, this is fine. We're only at hour 12. Let's go. We're leaving. Kristen, great weekend. You're gonna search for goats. What are you doing?
Have a birthday dinner, have an event with one of my girlfriends, lots of stuff. Starting to pack the house.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Anything with any of your girlfriend's name?
Not this weekend.
Good answer. All right, everybody. Stay getting money.